Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Aaron Mitchell, and I am 34 years old. She dropped it on me over dinner, not at some fancy restaurant where the setting might have softened the blow. No, we were at the kitchen table on a Wednesday night, halfway through takeout Chinese food. "I think we should pause our marriage," Sabrina said, stabbing at her lo mein like she had just suggested we pause a television show. I set down my fork. "Pause our marriage? Just for 3 weeks," she continued evenly, "while I am in Seattle for this business trip." She did not even look up from her plate. "I think we both need some space to figure things out." Space. That word people use when they want freedom without consequences. When they want to keep one foot in the door while testing the waters elsewhere. Figure what things out exactly. I kept my tone level. She finally looked at me, and I saw it. That flash of irritation that I had asked a follow-up question instead of just accepting her terms. Us. This marriage. Whether we are still happy. "Are you happy?" I asked. "I do not know. That is the point." She pushed her food around without eating. 3 weeks apart will give us clarity. Clarity. Another word that sounds profound, but means almost nothing. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. This woman I had been married to for 6 years. When had she become a stranger? "So, you want to pause our marriage," I said slowly, "while you're on the other side of the country for 3 weeks. Exactly. She looked relieved that I seemed to be understanding. No pressure, no expectations, just time to breathe and think. What she did not say, but what hung in the air between us, was this. No accountability either. No rules, no commitment. A free pass with a return ticket. The smart play for me would have been to argue, demand answers, ask the 1,000 questions burning through my head. But I have learned a few things about manipulation over the years. The person doing it always expects resistance. They prepare for your anger, your hurt, your desperation. So, I did something she was not prepared for. "Okay," I said. She blinked. Okay. If that is what you need, then okay." I picked up my fork and went back to my food like we had just agreed on which movie to watch. The confusion on her face was almost worth the gut punch I was feeling. She had expected tears, arguments, maybe even begging. Instead, I was eating fried rice with the emotional investment of someone discussing the weather. "You are okay with this?" Her voice had an edge now. "You are an adult. You know what you want." I met her eyes. 3 weeks, right? Your flight leaves Saturday. Saturday morning. Yes. She was studying me, trying to figure out what game I was playing. "You are being strange about this." "How should I be?" I asked. "You want space. I'm giving you space." It seemed straightforward. The next 3 days were fascinating in the worst way. She kept circling back to it like my acceptance bothered her more than resistance would have. She would make comments about the trip, watch for my reaction, mention how long 3 weeks was, and wait for me to crack. I did not. Friday night, she packed her suitcase in our bedroom while I watched television in the living room. She came out twice, lingering in the doorway like she wanted to say something. Both times, I just nodded and went back to the screen. Saturday morning arrived. Her ride to the airport was scheduled for 6 o'clock. I got up at 5:30, made coffee, and acted like any other morning. She stood by the door with her luggage and, for the first time since Wednesday, looked genuinely uncertain. "So, I guess this is it," she said. "Safe flight." I handed her a travel mug of coffee I had made. "Text when you land." She took the mug, her hand shaking slightly. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" I smiled. Not a warm smile, not a cold smile, just a smile that said absolutely nothing. "You wanted to pause," I said. "Have a great trip." She hesitated, then walked out. I watched through the window as she loaded her bags, got in the car, and drove away. The moment her ride turned the corner, I closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a breath I had not known I was holding. 3 weeks. She thought I would spend them waiting by the phone, pining for her return, proving how much I needed her. She had no idea what 3 weeks of freedom could do to a man who had finally stopped lying to himself. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes application. I started a new list. Things to do while the marriage is on pause. First item. Figure out if I want to press play again when she gets back. Spoiler alert. I already knew the answer. The house felt different with her gone. Not empty, just honest. I spent Saturday doing what I had not done in years. Whatever I wanted. I ordered pizza at 10 in the morning because why not? I put on music she hated. I left dishes in the sink without hearing a lecture about responsibility. By Sunday, the clarity she promised started hitting, just not in the way she intended. I called my friend Devin. We had been close before the marriage, then drifted when she made it clear she did not like my friends. They are immature, she once said. Translation: they saw through her act. No way, Devin said when I told him about the pause. She actually said that word for word, and you said yes, just like that. Seemed easier than the alternative. I was sitting on the back porch, beer in hand. It was the first one I had had in the house in months. Last year, she had declared the house a health zone. Brother, you know what this is, right? Devin's voice got serious. This is her testing the waters while keeping you in reserve. I thought the same thing. Hearing it out loud made it concrete. Probably, I admitted. So, what are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? Monday morning, I took a personal day from work. I made an appointment with Harold Whitaker, a divorce attorney Devin recommended. Not because I had decided anything definite, but to understand my options. Whitaker's office was downtown, one of those places with leather chairs and law books lining every wall. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Let me ask you something, he said when I finished. Do you think she's coming back ready to fix this marriage? Honestly, I think she's coming back expecting to find me broken and grateful she returned at all. He nodded slowly. I have seen this pattern before. The spouse who asks for space usually is not looking for answers. They are looking for permission. Permission for what? To do whatever they want without technically being the bad person. They can say, we were on a break, and avoid responsibility. That tracked. She had been careful with her words. Not separation, not divorce, just a pause. Plausible deniability, wrapped in therapy speak. What would you do? I asked. If you were me. Whitaker leaned back. I would use these 3 weeks to get your documents in order. Financial records, property assessments, understand your rights. If she comes back and you decide to work it out, great. You have lost nothing but some consultation fees. But if she comes back expecting you to accept whatever happened in Seattle, he shrugged. You will be prepared instead of blindsided. I left his office with a folder full of documents to gather and a strange sense of relief. I was not planning for divorce. I was planning for self-respect. That afternoon, I did something else I had not done in years. I hit the gym. Not the calm, boutique place she preferred with the smoothie bar and eucalyptus towels. I went to the old-school gym with free weights, chalk in the air, and people who actually broke a sweat. It felt good, like pulling something lost back into my hands. Tuesday, my phone buzzed. Text from Seattle. Settled into the hotel. Time difference is rough. Miss you. I stared at it for a long moment. Miss you. 2 words that would have made my chest tight 6 months ago. Now, they just felt like checking a box. I texted back. Glad you made it safe. Get some rest. Short, polite, zero emotion. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. I could feel her frustration through the screen. She wanted more. She wanted me to pour out feelings, ask questions, give her the attention she had put on pause. What else should I say? I finally sent. The dots appeared and disappeared twice more. No response came. Wednesday, I started going through her finances properly. Not snooping, just looking at what was mine, what was ours, and what would be fair. Turns out we kept things pretty separate. My income, my accounts. Her income, her accounts. One joint account for bills. That made things simpler. It made things clearer. Thursday she called. Video call at 8 o'clock in the evening my time, which meant 5 o'clock for her. I answered. She was in what looked like a hotel room. Professional but tired. Hey, she said. I have not heard much from you. I have been busy. How is Seattle? Interesting. Meetings are intense. She paused. I've been thinking about us, and I guess I expected you to be more upset about this pause. I almost laughed. You wanted me upset? No, she exhaled. You are acting like it does not matter. You asked for space. I gave you space. Did you want me to handle it differently? She looked frustrated. You are being distant. I'm being respectful of your boundaries, I said calmly. That is what you asked for, is it not? She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. I'm starting to wonder if you even care about this marriage. And there was the trap. If I said I cared, I would be the desperate husband she could tug around. If I said I did not, I would be the villain who gave up without trying. I care about being in a marriage where both people want to be there. I said, do you want to be here? That is what I'm trying to figure out. Then figure it out. That is what these 3 weeks are for, right? I kept my tone neutral. You have 2.5 weeks left. Use them. We ended the call shortly after. She looked more confused than when we started. Friday night, Devin came over with burgers and a 6-pack. You look different, he said, studying me between bites. Different how? Like you had been sleeping better. I had been. No walking on eggshells. No wondering what mood she would be in. No analyzing every word for hidden meanings. This pause thing, Devin said. Do you think it is going to become permanent? I took a long pull from my beer. I think she wanted permission to do whatever she wanted while keeping me as an option. But here's what she did not count on. What is that? That I would realize I'm an option too. And I might decide to exercise my options. Devin raised his bottle. About time. The first week without her was ending, and I discovered something she probably had not wanted me to find. Life without the constant manipulation. It was genuinely good. Week 2 started with a shift in her messages. They came more frequently now, more probing. Went to this amazing dinner last night. Rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. Wish you could see it. Translation. I am having experiences without you. Feel jealous yet? I sent back a thumbs up emoji. That was it. 10 minutes later. That is your response? Sound nice, I typed. Enjoy yourself. Radio silence for 6 hours. Then, what have you been up to? I could have lied and pretended I was miserable. Instead, I told the truth. Hit the gym this morning. Grabbed lunch with Devin. Pretty standard week. The response came fast. Devin, since when are you hanging out with Devin again? Since you are not here to tell me he is a bad influence, I thought. We grabbed burgers, caught up on things. What things? I stare at my phone. This was the woman who wanted space to figure things out. Now, interrogating me about having lunch with a friend. Just life. How are your meetings going? Subject change. She did not like that. Fine. But seriously, you and Devin have not talked in like 2 years. 3 years. I corrected. And whose fault was that? I regretted sending it the moment I hit send. Not because it was not true, but because it gave away that I was thinking clearly about the past. She did not respond for the rest of the day. Tuesday, I signed up for a woodworking class at the community center. It was something I had mentioned years ago, back when we first got married. She had shot it down. We cannot afford hobbies right now, she said while booking her 3rd spa day that month. Turned out we could afford hobbies just fine. I could afford hobbies just fine. The class was Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Basic stuff. Measuring, ripping, sanding. But I liked it. I like working with my hands. I like being around people who did not care about my marriage status or whether I was meeting someone else's expectations. The instructor, Calvin Thompson, took to calling me straight cut because I was careful, methodical, unwilling to rush. Wednesday, she tried calling. I was in the middle of class. Phone on silent. I did not see it until I got home at 9:30. 3 missed calls. 2 voicemails. The first voicemail, hey, just calling to check in. Call me back when you get this. The second voicemail, it has been 3 hours. Where are you? Call me. The entitlement in her tone was fascinating. She had asked for a pause, but expected me to be available on demand. I texted instead of calling, sorry. Was in a class. Everything okay? What class? Woodworking. Started this week. Woodworking? Since when? Since I had free time. 3 dots appeared and disappeared about 5 times. Finally, we need to talk tomorrow. Actual talk, not texting. Sure, I sent back. What time works for you? But I did not feel that knot in my stomach anymore. I did not feel that automatic anxiety about what she wanted to discuss. If anything, I was curious about what excuse she would come up with. Thursday, she called right at 6 o'clock in the evening my time. I was grabbing dinner before my class. You sound busy, she said after I answered. Eating dinner. What is up? I've been thinking about us a lot. Her voice had that careful tone, the one she used when she was trying to seem vulnerable. This time apart has been hard. Has it? I took a bite of my sandwich and let the question hang. Of course it has. Have you been struggling? Struggling. Interesting choice of word. I have been managing, I said. Managing. She repeated it like it was a foreign concept. That is it. You're just managing. What did you expect? I do not know. Maybe some indication that you miss me? That this pause is affecting you. I set down my sandwich. You asked for space to figure out if you were happy in this marriage. Did you want me to spend 3 weeks begging you to come back to prove I need you? Silence. Because that is not happening, I continued. You wanted clarity. I'm getting clarity, too. What does that mean? Her voice rose slightly. It means I'm realizing some things while you're gone. Like what? Like how much easier it is to breathe when I'm not constantly worried about saying the wrong thing, or doing the wrong thing, or being the wrong thing. More silence. Then, that is not fair. Is it not? When is the last time I did something for myself without checking with you first? When is the last time I saw my friends without getting a lecture about priorities? I never stopped you from seeing your friends. I almost laughed. You did not have to stop me. You just made it so miserable every time I did that it became easier not to. I cannot believe you're saying this. Her voice cracked slightly. I thought this time apart would help us. And you're using it to build a case against me. I'm not building anything. I'm just seeing things clearly for the first time in years. So what? You are done. You have given up on us. I have not given up on anything, I said calmly. But I'm not going to pretend the last few years have been healthy just because it is uncomfortable to admit. She was crying now. I could hear in her breathing. A year ago, those tears would have broken me. I would have apologized, backtracked, done whatever it took to make her feel better. Now I just felt tired. Look, I said, you have another week and a half in Seattle. Finish your trip. Figure out what you want. Will you be here? The question came out sharp, because it sounded like you were already gone. I'm exactly where you left me, I said. But I am not waiting around like a lost puppy. That is not who I am. We ended the call shortly after. I sat in my car for a few minutes processing. Then I went to my woodworking class and lost myself in sanding a block of walnut until the edges felt like silk. Friday afternoon, Devin called. You are not going to believe this, he said. What? Erica ran into your wife's friend Jasmine. Apparently, Jasmine got a call from Seattle last night. Your wife was crying about how you have changed, how you're being cold, how she thinks you're going to leave her. She said that. Word for word, Devin said. According to Erica, Jasmine told her that is what happens when you press pause on a marriage. Your wife apparently said she needed to clear her head, not lose her husband. I could not help it. I laughed genuinely. What is funny? Devin asked. She wanted a pause. She's getting a pause, but she still expects me to be on standby, ready to jump when she snaps her fingers. So what are you going to do? Finish my woodworking project. Hit the gym. Maybe grab dinner with people who actually value my time. And when she gets back, I looked around our living room at the space I had reclaimed, at the life I had started rebuilding. When she gets back, she's going to find out that pressing pause gave me time to realize I do not need to press play again. Devin was quiet for a moment. You sound different, man. Stronger. I feel different. Turns out 3 weeks of not being manipulated does wonders for your mental health. That weekend, her messages became almost frantic. Photos of Seattle skyline, long updates about her day, questions about mine. Each one more desperate for engagement than the last. I responded to all of them, polite, brief, emotionally neutral. With each short reply, I could feel her panic growing from far away. 9 days remained until she was supposed to return. 9 days for her to realize that the pause she had asked for had become the space I needed to find myself again. And there was no going back from that. I was finishing a bench press set when my phone buzzed on the gym floor. Saturday morning. Text from her. Flying back Monday. Need to talk in person. No question mark. No request. Just an announcement. I wiped sweat from my face and stared at the message. She was coming back a full week early. Everything good? A voice asked. It was Kendrick, a new friend from the gym. Former military, sharp eyes, zero tolerance for nonsense. My wife is cutting her trip short. The one who wanted the marriage pause. He nodded once. That is interesting timing. You ready for whatever that conversation is? I thought about the neatly labeled folder in my desk drawer. Not file papers, just prepared. Yes, I said. I am ready. Monday came faster than I expected. I took the day off work, cleaned the house. Not because she expected it, but because I wanted to. I finished the cutting board I had been making in class. A simple, beautiful slab of walnut and maple joined in clean lines. I went for a run. Her flight was due at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She texted that she would take a rideshare straight home. I was ready by 1 o'clock. Sitting in the living room, cutting board on the coffee table, mentally steady for whatever was coming. She walked through the door at 3:15. Two suitcases, exhausted, and somehow different. Her hair was trimmed, her clothes new. "Hey," she said, setting down her bags. "Welcome back. How was the flight?" She looked around the house like she was seeing it for the first time, taking in the changes. A small rack of free weights in the corner. The woodworking magazines on the side table. The absence of clutter that was usually hers. "The house looks different," she said. "I have been keeping busy." She picked up the cutting board, ran her fingers over the smooth wood. "You made this." "Finished it yesterday." "Woodworking class." "The class." She set it down carefully. "We need to talk." "Okay. Do you want something to drink first? Water? Coffee?" "No. She sat on the couch. The exhaustion was not just from travel. It was from stress. "I made a mistake." "Which mistake are we talking about?" She flinched at my tone. The pause. Asking for space. All of it. Why was it a mistake? Because I thought time apart would help me figure things out. But instead it made me realize what I have, what I could lose. I sat in the chair across from her, not beside her on the couch. The distance was deliberate. "What changed?" 9 days ago, you needed 3 weeks to figure out if you were happy. Now you're back early, saying it was a mistake." She looked down at her hands. "I talked to Jasmine. She mentioned running into Erica, who said you seemed different. Happy. And that bothered you." "It scared me," she corrected. "The thought that you were moving on, that you did not need me." "I do not need you," I said quietly. Her head snapped up. "What?" "I do not need you. That is what these 9 days taught me. I can function just fine on my own. Better, actually. So that is it. You have already made up your mind. You asked for a pause. I gave you one. But pauses work both ways. While you were in Seattle figuring out if you wanted this marriage, I was here figuring out the same thing. And I spent these days reconnecting with friends you pushed away, doing hobbies you dismissed, going to the gym without hearing how it was taking time away from us. And you know what I realized?" She did not answer. "I realized that being alone felt better than being with someone who makes me feel alone." Tears started to run down her face. "You were saying you want a divorce. I'm saying that this pause showed me what our marriage actually is." I kept my voice even. "You control everything. Who I see, what I do, how I spend my time. The moment you loosened that control for 9 days, you panicked and came running back. That is not fair. I was trying to work on myself by going to Seattle." I cut her off. "By asking for space from your marriage while on a business trip? What exactly were you working on?" She stood and paced. "I know it sounds bad, but I genuinely needed time to think, to figure out what I wanted." "What do you want?" "I want us. I want this marriage to work." "Why?" I stood too, keeping the coffee table between us. "Because you actually want it, or because you do not like the idea of me being okay without you." "That is not." "Answer the question. If you came home and found me devastated, begging you to stay, would you respect me more or less?" She froze. The answer was written across her face. "That is what I thought," I said. "You wanted to come back to me broken, so you could fix things on your terms." "I did not." "You did." I walked to my desk, pulled out the folder Whitaker had prepared, and sat on the coffee table next to the cutting board. I had a lot of time to think these last 9 days. I met with a lawyer, sorted our finances, figured out what fair looks like. She stared at the folder like it was a live wire. "You filed for divorce?" "Not yet. But I am prepared to." "I cannot believe this." "I asked for 3 weeks to work on myself, and you used it to plan our divorce. You asked for 3 weeks to decide if you wanted this marriage. I used 9 days to realize I do not want a marriage that needs to be paused. I want a partner, not someone who keeps me around as an option." She grabbed the folder and flipped it open. I watched her face go from anger to shock to something closer to acceptance. "This is really happening," she said quietly. "It does not have to," I said. "We could try counseling. We could try to rebuild. But it has to be genuine. No more manipulation. No more control. No more testing me to see if I will break." "I was not testing you." "You absolutely were. And I failed your test by passing it." She looked up at me, confusion clear on her face. "You wanted me to fall apart without you," I explained, "to prove you were essential. When I did not, when I actually thrived, it terrified you because it meant you could not control the narrative anymore." She closed the folder, set it down, and sat back on the couch, looking smaller somehow. "What if I promise to change?" she asked. "What if we start over?" "Start over from what?" Years of you making me feel guilty for having friends, for having hobbies, for having a life outside your approval. I did not realize I was doing that. Maybe you did not. Or maybe you did, and convinced yourself it was justified. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. Either way, these 9 days showed me who I am when I am not constantly trying to be who you want me to be. And who are you? Someone who deserves better than a marriage that needs to be paused. We sat in silence. The cutting board sat between us, solid, simple, honest. A reminder that I had built something with my own hands while she was gone. I'm staying at Erica's tonight, she finally said. Give us both time to process. That is probably smart. She gathered a few things, tossed them in an overnight bag, and stood at the door like she had 9 days earlier. But everything was different now. I really did miss you, she said quietly. I believe you. But missing someone and respecting them are two different things. She left without another word. I sat on the couch, picked up my cutting board, and ran my hands over the wood I had shaped, sanded, finished. She had asked for a pause, expecting to find me broken when she pressed play again. Instead, she found someone who had learned to stand on his own, and that changed everything. The next afternoon, she came back to talk more. She wanted to revisit the counseling idea, to sketch out a plan. We can set boundaries, she said. Schedule time for ourselves and time for us. We can find a therapist near your job. I will stop dictating our weekends. We can split holidays fairly. I will not ask you to give up friends. We could do a weekly check-in. I will stop making snide comments about the gym. Those are good promises, I said. They are also things you should not need to promise. Erin, please. I am listening, but I am not moving because you are pushing. She nodded slowly. Then tell me what you want right now. I want time, I said. And I want honesty. Not words that sound right. I want the truth behind them. The truth is that I thought I had to orchestrate everything to feel safe, she said, voice shaking. If I controlled our calendar, our friends, our food, our money, I felt secure. I did not trust that you would choose us unless I made it unavoidable. That is not partnership, I said. That is surveillance. I know, she whispered. I know that now. And what will change that? Me, she said. Or I will try. I do not know if I could do it fast enough for you, but I will try. Trying is not nothing, I said. It is also not a marriage. She swallowed hard, as if she had hoped I would reach for her hand and declare that her confession fixed it. When I did not, she closed her eyes. I do not want to lose you. I do not want to lose myself. Thursday, she started calling. She left voicemails ranging from angry to apologetic to bargaining. I listened to each one, but did not respond. The last one came at midnight. I know you probably will not answer, but I need you to know something. I do love you. I always have. And I'm sorry that was not enough, but ending what we had is not going to make you happy. You're going to regret this. I deleted it without replying. Friday morning, I signed the divorce papers in Whitaker's office. He explained the next steps, service of process, waiting periods, division of assets. It was straightforward. We had kept our finances mostly separate. The house was rented, not owned. No children. No complicated entanglements. This is one of the cleaner divorces I've handled, Whitaker said. It should be finalized within a few months if she does not contest. She will contest, I said. Not because she wants to fight, but because she wants to maintain control as long as possible. He nodded. I have seen that before. Stay firm. Do not engage in the drama. Let the process work. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in years. This was not the ending I had imagined when I got married, but it was the ending I needed. That night, Devin came over with pizza and a case of seltzer. We watched a game, and it felt normal. It felt like the before times, when life was not a constant negotiation. My phone buzzed around 10 o'clock. Text from her. Can I come get the rest of my things tomorrow? I replied, noon. I will be here. Saturday at noon. She showed up with Jasmine. They brought boxes and bags. I stayed in the living room while they packed her things from the bedroom. It took about an hour. When they finished, Jasmine carried most of the boxes to the car, while Sabrina stood in the doorway one last time. This is really happening, she said. It is. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and we will still be married. Still together. We are still married, I pointed out. Just not for much longer. You sound so calm about it. I am calm about it. This is the right decision. She shook her head. I will never understand how you can just turn off your feelings like that. I'm not turning them off. I'm just choosing not to let them control me anymore. She left without saying goodbye. Jasmine gave me a sympathetic look on her way out. I closed the door and looked around the house. It felt emptier now, but not in a bad way. More like space had opened up. Room to breathe. Room to become whoever I was supposed to be before I spent 6 years shrinking myself to fit someone else's vision. My phone buzzed. Text from Kendrick. Bench press session tomorrow morning. I typed back, I will be there. Another text, this time from Calvin Thompson, the woodworking instructor. Starting an advanced class next month. Interested? I replied, definitely. In the weeks that followed, I learned the difference between silence and peace. The first feels like a void. The second feels earned. I got used to mornings that belonged to me. Coffee and stretching. Early lifts with Kendrick. Evenings with sawdust on my shirt and grain patterns stuck in my head. She contested the divorce briefly. She wanted spousal support despite making more than me. She wanted half of everything despite our prenuptial agreement. Eventually, her lawyer probably told her what mine already knew. She did not have a case. The final hearing took 20 minutes. The judge signed the papers. We walked out of the courthouse from different exits. I did not see her again that day. Life moved forward in ways I had not expected. The woodworking hobby turned into a small side business. I started selling cutting boards and small furniture pieces online, enough to fund more tools and classes. Kendrick introduced me to an indoor climbing gym in the city. Turned out I was decent at it. Devin and Erica set me up on a few dates. Some went well, some did not. I was in no rush. For the first time in years, I was comfortable being alone. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Sabrina at a coffee shop downtown. Pure coincidence. She was with a man in a suit. He looked polished and corporate. She saw me and froze. I nodded and went to place my order. Wait, she called out. I turned. How are you? She asked, leaving the man at their table. Good. You? I am okay. Her smile did not reach her eyes. This is strange, is it not? A little. I heard you're doing woodworking now, she said. Selling things online. Yes. It is going well. I'm glad you found something you enjoy. Another pause. The man at her table was watching us. I should get back, she said. But I'm glad you're doing well. Genuinely. You too. She walked away, and I ordered my coffee. I sat by the window and watched people pass by. My phone buzzed. Text from Kendrick. Climbing gym tonight? I typed back, absolutely. On the way to the gym, I thought about what she had said, about clarity. She had been right about that part. The pause had given us clarity. It just had not given us the clarity she expected. She thought she would come back to find me waiting, grateful, ready to accept whatever term she said. Instead, she came back to find someone who had pressed play on a different life entirely. I parked, grabbed my bag, and headed inside. Kendrick was already there, lacing his shoes. Good day, he asked. Yes, I said, and meant it. Actually, it was. We climbed until my arms burned and my mind felt clear. Later, at home, I stood in the kitchen and ran a palm across a new cutting board in progress. White oak this time, the grain soft under the light. The house was quiet, not empty, not lonely, just mine. A week later, I got a message from Jasmine. She wanted to return a book of mine that Sabrina had found tucked behind a shelf. I told her she could drop it off or leave it with Devin and Erica, whichever was easier. She chose to leave it with them. Later, Devin said Jasmine looked embarrassed handing it over. She told Erica that Sabrina is seeing someone, Devin said. I guess that was the man in the suit. That makes sense. You all right? I am. You know, Devin added with a small grin, Erica says your walnut board sold out online in a day. She thinks you should do a pop-up at the community market. I laughed. Tell Erica I will think about it. The following month, the community center asked me to assist Calvin with beginners during evening sessions. I stood beside a young student, a teenager named Miles, and guided his hands as he learned to plane an edge true. You feel that? I asked. That little catch means your angle is off. Bring your wrist in. He grinned when a ribbon of wood curled up and floated to the floor. Like that. Exactly like that. After class, Calvin clapped me on the shoulder. You have a steady way with people, he said. Not just the tools. Thank you. People listen when you are calm, he added. It is a gift. I carried that with me when, a month later, Sabrina sent a long message. There was no pleading, no bargaining, just a piece of writing that sounded more like reflection than demand. She said she had started seeing a counselor. She said she had told the counselor that she had built a relationship like a puzzle, constantly rearranging the pieces until I fit the picture she wanted to see. She said the counselor asked her when she first learned that controlling things felt safer than trusting, and she had mentioned her childhood in a house where unpredictability was the rule. She apologized, not to move me, simply to say she finally understood her part. I read it twice. Then I replied, "Thank you for sharing that. I hope you keep doing the work. I wish you well." She responded, "I wish you well too." There was nothing else to add. We were done saying things that only complicated what had already been made simple. On an early morning run, the air cool against my face, I thought about every version of myself I had been in the past few years. The one who apologized first. The one who kept quiet to keep the peace. The one who joked his own needs into silence. That man made sense when I believed love meant accommodating whatever the other person could not face. But I cannot go back to him. Not now, not ever. Months slid by. The pop-up market happened. I took a folding table and a few dozen boards, maple with walnut inlay, walnut with maple, a handful of cherry boards with beveled edges. Kendrick and Devin stopped by and teased me for arranging my display with surgical precision. Erica brought lemonade. A couple bought a maple board and said they were going to use it for their first Thanksgiving hosting. The wife whispered, "We will think of you when we slice the pie." I smiled in spite of myself. Near the end of the afternoon, a man in a dark blue apron paused, turned a board over, and nodded appreciatively. "Clean work," he said. "Where did you learn?" "Community center," I said. "A good teacher." "You have a card?" he asked. I handed him one. He glanced at it, then slipped it into his pocket. "We are opening a small home goods shop over on River Street. We are looking for local makers. If you are interested in consignment, come by next week. I am there most afternoons." After he left, Devin elbowed me lightly. "You look like you are trying not to grin." "I'm trying not to make a big deal out of small opportunity," I said. "Let yourself be happy for 10 minutes, he replied. "Then you can go back to being careful." Later that night, I lay in bed and thought about how a life can reopen quietly, not with firework moments, but with the steady click of doors you had forgotten you closed. I thought about the night at our kitchen table when Sabrina asked for a pause, and how certain she had seemed that time apart would shape me into the version of myself that served her story best. Then I thought about what actually happened. I discovered the version that served mine. Not long after, Kendrick and I joined a small climbing group that met on Wednesdays. We rotated belay partners and learned to trust the rhythm of the rope. "On you," Kendrick would say as I leaned back into a controlled fall, and it meant I could let go because someone competent was paying attention. People forget that trust is not a feeling first. It is a practice. You do it until your body believes you. Sometimes I wondered if Sabrina had found that practice in counseling, if she was learning to let go without grabbing for control to feel steady. I hope so. Not for us. For her. One evening, I got an email from the River Street shop. They wanted 12 cutting boards before the holidays and 6 small-footed trays if I had time. I looked at my calendar, at the rows of ordinary days that were mine to arrange, and felt the kind of gratitude that is quiet and precise. I wrote back and said yes. I did not tell anyone for a few hours. Then I texted Devin and Kendrick and Erica in a group chat. The replies came back fast. Applause emoji from Erica, a biceps from Kendrick, 3 exclamation points from Devin, and then, "Let us celebrate with ribs." "You and the ribs," I wrote back. Devin replied, "Do not stand between a man and his traditions." In the workshop corner of my apartment, I ran walnut and maple across the joiner, listening to the machine's steady hum. I measured, marked, glued, clamped, and sanded as dusk folded into night. When the last board took oil and the grain came alive, bursts of chocolate and cream swimming to the surface, I thought about how simple things get complicated when you try to hold them too tight. What teaches you that? Press too hard and you burn it. Rush the grit on sandpaper and you scratch lines you cannot hide. Take your time, and the surface tells the truth back to you. On a Sunday morning in winter, I carried the finished boards to my car, wrapped in brown paper like gifts to people I would never meet. I dropped them off at the shop and walked the block with a hot coffee. A father tugged his son's mitten and laughed. A couple argued gently about an errand. Somewhere a dog barked twice, impatient and hopeful. The ordinariness of it all felt like a currency I finally had enough of. Later that day, as I wiped down my workbench, My phone buzzed with an unknown number. It was Whitaker's assistant. Just confirming we have the stamped final decree in our files and yours. Nothing further is required from you. Take care. Thank you, I said. I set the phone down and stood quietly for a minute. Not because I was unsure, because closure deserves a breath taken on purpose. That evening, I met Devin and Erica at a little place near the river that did grilled chicken and greens the right way. Kendrick showed up late, fresh from a run, grinning and unapologetic. We ate and laughed and made ridiculous predictions about a game that none of us genuinely understood, but all of us pretended to. Devin told a story about his nephew's school play that had us all wiping our eyes. Erica rolled hers and kissed him on the cheek. You know what I see? Kendrick said, leaning back. A person who picked himself up and built a life with both hands. Respect. I nodded. I had help. You let the help matter, Erica said. That is the key. On the way home, I drove past the community center. The auditorium was lit. A youth orchestra was rehearsing. Music rose in long lines, held steady by people listening to each other. I parked for a minute and watched through the glass doors. Some parts of life sound best when every player knows when to lead and when to leave room. I did not text Sabrina anymore. She did not text me. When a memory flickered, the kitchen table, the long afternoons watching the clock, I let it be a picture from a house I moved out of. If I felt a small ache, I recognized it for what it was, proof that I had loved in good faith. There is no need to be ashamed of that. A few months later, while picking up wood at a supplier on the edge of town, I ran into Calvin loading boards into the back of a van. Busy, he asked. A little, I said, smiling. Good. Keep your edges clean and your heart softer than your planes. That sounds like something you made up. It is, he admitted, chuckling. But it does not make it wrong. I drove home with the scent of oak filling the car and the radio low. The shop on River Street sent another order. The climbing routes got harder. Devin and Erica got engaged. Kendrick started dating someone kinder than his luck had suggested he would find. Ordinary life, earned, quiet, deliberate, kept happening. There are moments people expect to be cinematic. The grand declarations, the second chances, the dramatic returns. But for me, the real turning came at a kitchen table with takeout containers and a word that pretended to be noble. Pause. She asked for it, and in granting it, I found out the simplest thing about myself. When given room, I grew. If you had asked me then what I wanted, I would have said freedom, respect, a life lived on my terms. Months later, standing in a bright workshop with oil warming in my hands and wood gleaming like it had been waiting for me to notice, I realized I had it. Not the loud kind, the reliable kind. The kind that lets you wake up and recognize yourself before anyone else tells you who to be. I did not know where Sabrina's story went next. I hope she kept going counseling. I hope she learned to trust without managing every inch of the ground first. We were two people who could not be married anymore, and admitting that was not cruel. It was adult. One evening, after finishing a batch of cherry boards, I took a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. A woman across the street watered a stubborn rosebush and hummed something I did not know. A child raced a scooter down the sidewalk and shouted hello. I waved back. I thought about the man I had been on the night of the pause, certain I would spend 3 weeks miserable and lost. That man was gone. In his place stood someone who knew what it felt like to do right by himself and not apologize for it. I carried that feeling inside and went home. There was food to cook, music to put on, a text to answer about a route at the gym, a reminder to sand the feet on a tray. Not everything has to be a lesson. Sometimes it is enough that a day belongs to you and that you know how to use it. My name is Aaron Mitchell, and I am 34 years old. Once, a pause nearly took me apart. Instead, it taught me the rhythm of my own life. I did not look back. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.